I never imagined the first time my son called me Mom in front of a crowd would be the same day his bride shoved me through a kitchen door. The chandeliers above the ballroom glittered like something out of a Fifth Avenue showroom, reflecting off the crystal flutes the servers carried past me. Guests posed under a floral arch that looked suspiciously like a cheaper version of the plaza's signature setup, and Michael, my only child, was already smiling in pictures like everything was perfect. But I knew better. I felt it in the way Chloe grabbed my wrist earlier, nails digging just enough to sting while keeping her smile wide for the photographer. I felt it when she whispered, "Stay out of the way today, okay? This is our moment, not yours." And then, it happened. The moment that changed everything. I'd stepped aside to fix the pearl pin Lucas bought me last Christmas, a soft, elegant piece that made me feel like something more than just the mother of the groom. I was smoothing my dress when Chloe approached from behind, perfume sharp, breath tight. She didn't greet me. She didn't even pretend. She just hissed, "The coordinator says the horse doves are slow. Go check the kitchen, make yourself useful," and shoved me through the swinging kitchen door. Hard. My shoulder hit a metal rack, sending a stack of Amazon boxes tumbling to the floor. A server gasped, another muttered, "Oh my God," but Chloe was already gone, her white dress disappearing back into the golden light of the ballroom, as if she hadn't just humiliated me at my own son's wedding. For a second, I froze. I'm 58, a widow. I've spent a decade telling myself I'm strong, but being shoved like that? It ripped straight through the wall I'd built. I felt the same crushing loneliness I felt the night my husband died, when the doctor said, "I'm sorry," and I realized there was no one left to lean on. I swallowed hard, palms shaking. One of the staff rushed toward me. "Ma'am, are you okay?" I wasn't. Not even close. But I didn't let it show. I steadied myself, adjusted my navy dress, and lifted my chin. "I'm fine, sweetheart," I told her, my voice calmer than my heartbeat. "Could you hand me a napkin?" She did. I wiped the dust from my sleeve, took a breath, and then did something that made the girl blink in confusion. I smiled. Not a polite smile. Not a motherly smile. A smile with teeth. Because this wasn't the first sign. Chloe's sweetness had been curdling for months. The eye rolls when she thought no one was looking, the snide remarks about my condo being quaint, the way she talked about my son's future as if she already owned it. And I wasn't just a helpless mother watching it happen. I wasn't alone either. I slipped my hand into my clutch, pulled out my iPhone, and typed a message to the one person who knew the truth months before the wedding ever started. "Linda, it's time." 3 dots appeared almost instantly. "Are you sure? You only get one moment to drop this bomb." I glanced through the small kitchen window, past the waiters, past the chaos, to the ballroom glowing in soft gold. Guests were laughing. Michael was adjusting his tie. Chloe was posing for a selfie, her smile so bright it almost hid the rot underneath. Almost. I took a slow breath. "Yes," I whispered to myself. "I'm sure." As I pushed the door open again, stepping back into the chandelier light, something inside me had shifted. I wasn't walking out there as the woman who got shoved. I wasn't walking out as the lonely widow who'd spent years blending into the background. I walked out as someone who finally stopped being afraid. And I was about to bring everything crashing down. People like to say loneliness creeps in quietly. They're wrong. Mine barged in the night my husband died 10 years ago, when the doctor pressed a hand to my shoulder and said, he didn't make it. I remember standing in the bright hospital hallway, hearing nothing but the buzzing of the ceiling lights, thinking, this is it. This is your life now. Just you. And for a long time, it was. I sold our little house in Queens because I couldn't stand hearing his slippers on the hardwood floor every time the AC kicked in. I downsized to a modest condo in Manhattan, nothing fancy, but the kind of place a widow could disappear in. I filled the shelves with my Kindle, self-help books, Amazon boxes I never unpacked, and plants I always forgot to water. Every night I sat by the window watching the Manhattan skyline glow like a world I was no longer part of. Michael tried in the beginning. He really did. He'd stop by after work or bring takeout, but life pulled him forward while I stayed still. That's the curse of grief. You freeze, but everyone else keeps walking. Then one afternoon my neighbor Gloria knocked on my door holding 2 Starbucks cups and a look like she was about to stage an intervention. "Linda, sweetheart, if I hear you talk to your plants again, I'm calling a therapist," she said, shoving a latte into my hands. I snorted. "They listen better than most men." "Then you're talking to the wrong men." She winked and dragged me out the door before I could argue. We ended up at a small Starbucks near 63rd Street. I ordered my usual plain latte. Gloria ordered something with enough caramel to kill a horse. I was laughing at her whipped cream mustache when it happened. A spill. A gasp. A stranger. My elbow knocked right into my drink as I turned, and hot latte splashed across the chest of the man behind me. "Oh God, I'm so sorry," I blurted, grabbing napkins. "I swear I'm not usually this clumsy." The man blinked once, then laughed. A low, warm, effortless laugh that made the barista smile. "It's okay," he said, patting his shirt. "Honestly, I needed an excuse to stop wearing this jacket. My staff hates it." That was the first time I saw him, Lucas, up close. Mid-40s, sleeves rolled, a little scruff, eyes that crinkled kindly. He looked like someone who'd lived enough life to understand loss, but carried enough warmth to make it bearable. "I'm Linda," I said, still mortified. "Lucas," he answered, "and if you buy me a new latte, I'll forgive you." I did. He sat with us, and 3 minutes later, Gloria was kicking me under the table, mouthing, "He's cute." There was something disarming about him. The way he asked questions and actually listened. The way he didn't look at my silver hair like it was something tragic. When I laughed, he watched me as though he'd been waiting to hear the sound. When he asked for my number, my first instinct was panic. I was 58, a widow, invisible. But his voice was gentle. "Only if you want to." My fingers shook when I handed him my phone. I felt ridiculous, like a teenage girl at her first school dance. But when he texted me later that evening, "Home safe, still thinking about that latte attack," I caught myself smiling at my screen for the first time in years. That night, I didn't sit by the window. I lay in bed with my Kindle beside me, untouched, my heart thudding in a way it hadn't since my 20s. I wasn't in love yet, but something had awakened. A spark I thought had died with my husband. A spark that would grow into something real, something dangerous, something that would eventually collide with the woman my son would bring home, the woman who would shove me into a kitchen 10 months later. If anyone had told me at 58 that I'd feel desire again, the kind that made my chest tighten and my cheeks warm, I would have laughed them out of the room. Desire belonged to the young, the smooth-skinned, the women who still bought lingerie for fun instead of comfort. But Lucas, he changed that. Our first real date wasn't supposed to be a date. He texted me a few days after the Starbucks incident, asking if I'd like to taste test a new seasonal menu at his restaurant. I tried to play it cool, replied with something like, "Only if you need honest feedback." But inside I was panicking. What does a widow wear to, whatever this was? Gloria marched into my condo like a sergeant, tossed my old cardigans aside, and held up a navy blouse I hadn't worn in years. "This one," she said. "You'll look like a woman, not a houseplant." I laughed, but wore it anyway. Lucas picked me up outside my building in a charcoal gray Mercedes, classical music humming softly through the speakers. When he stepped out to open the door for me, I swear, my knees nearly gave out. Men didn't do that anymore, especially not for women like me. The restaurant he co-owned sat on a quiet street with fairy lights draped over the entrance. Inside, the lighting was warm and low, flickering off wine glasses and polished silverware. It wasn't pretentious, just intimate in a way that made me feel seen. We talked for hours. Not about small things, but real things. About my husband, about his divorce 7 years earlier, about loneliness, the kind you hide behind work or books or routine. He didn't interrupt, he didn't fix. He simply listened. That alone was dangerous enough. But the real trouble began when he reached across the table, his fingers brushing mine lightly as he poured wine. The touch was brief. A second, maybe 2. Yet my whole body responded in a way I hadn't felt in years. Heat rose in my face, my pulse throbbed at my throat, and suddenly I became hyper-aware of everything. The softness of his voice, the depth of his eyes, the way his shirt clung to his forearms. I pulled my hand back so fast I nearly knocked over my water glass. "Smooth, Linda." Lucas only smiled, patient. "You okay?" "Fine," I said too quickly. "Just out of practice." That made him laugh. A warm, low laugh that curled around me like a blanket. We began seeing each other every week, Sometimes dinner. Sometimes a walk by the Hudson. Sometimes he'd come over to help me set up the MacBook Air he insisted I buy because you should write again, Linda. Your thoughts matter. One rainy night, after he drove me home and insisted on walking me to the lobby, thunder cracked above us. I jumped. He laughed, actually laughed, then reached up, brushing a strand of silver hair behind my ear. I froze. His hand lingered. He leaned in, slow enough for me to step away if I wanted to. I didn't. The kiss was soft at first, gentle, careful, almost reverent. But when his fingers curled behind my neck, something inside me broke open. Not in a painful way, in a remembering way. Like my body had suddenly woken from a 10-year sleep. I hadn't felt like a woman, an actual woman with warmth and hunger, since my husband died. And now here I was, kissing someone younger, someone alive, someone who wanted me. Me. We didn't rush into anything else that night. Lucas pulled back first, forehead resting against mine. I don't want to overwhelm you, he whispered. You aren't, I whispered back. I just forgot people could feel like this. He smiled, a slow, knowing smile. Then let me remind you. And he did. In the weeks that followed, he reminded me with every touch, every kiss, every time he held my hand like it was something precious. Our intimacy grew slowly, naturally, wrapped in respect, not secrecy. But I kept one thing from him. I hadn't told Michael. Not yet. Because deep down, I feared my son wouldn't understand why his 58-year-old mother had a lover, or why that love made me feel more alive than I'd felt in a decade. And I didn't know then that the woman Michael would soon bring home, Chloe, would look at my newfound happiness and see it as a threat. A threat she would do anything to crush. The night Michael brought her home, I'd just finished arranging flowers Lucas sent me, white lilies mixed with tiny sprigs of eucalyptus. I remember thinking the arrangement smelled like a soft promise. That maybe, after everything, life still had sweetness left for me. I didn't know that sweetness was about to curdle. Michael texted, "Mom, coming by with someone special," and my heart swelled. My son hadn't brought a girl home in years. After college, he dated here and there, but never anything serious. A part of me wondered if he'd struggled with commitment the way I had after losing his father. I reheated leftover pasta, straightened the throw pillows, lit a small vanilla candle. When the knock came, I opened the door to Michael, grinning ear to ear. And behind him stood Chloe. Long honey blonde hair, perfect blowout. A fitted beige dress with a slit that somehow managed to look classy and calculated at the same time. Her smile was bright enough to power a small town. "Hi," she chirped, stepping forward and hugging me before I could react. "I'm Chloe. Your son talks about you all the time." It sounded sweet. Too sweet. And the hug? Just tight enough to feel like she was staking territory rather than showing affection. Still, I tried. "Welcome, sweetheart. Come in. I made dinner." She stepped inside, her designer heel tapping against my hardwood floor. Her eyes scanned the condo, my simple beige sofa, the bookshelf with my Kindle tucked inside, the little ceramic bowl where I kept my Tiffany-style earrings Lucas gifted me. And right then, just for a second, her smile faltered. Not enough for Michael to notice, but enough for me to feel it like a cold draft. "Cute place," she said, voice high, eyes low. "Kind of vintage. Vintage, like I was." We sat at the table. Michael talked non-stop about his project at work. Chloe leaned into him, laughing a little too loudly, touching his arm every few seconds like she was performing a role. When the conversation turned to me, she tilted her head. "So Michael says you're retired?" It wasn't a question. It was an assessment. "I'm doing some writing," I answered, nodding toward my MacBook Air, "and helping Lucas with a few projects at his restaurants." Chloe perked up at his name. "Lucas? Who's Lucas?" I hesitated. "My partner." That was the moment her mask slipped, just for a heartbeat. Partner. Younger man. Successful man. She tried to hide her surprise, but I saw the calculation in her eyes, how fast they moved, how quickly she adjusted her smile. "Wow, that's lovely," she said, reaching for her wine glass. "Good for you." But behind the compliment was something sharper. Something territorial. Something like, "How dare you have a life? You're supposed to be old and harmless." Lucas arrived shortly after, bringing dessert, because of course he did. A delicate lemon tart dusted with powdered sugar. He kissed my cheek at the door, and I felt Chloe's stare like a needle. "Nice to meet you," she told him, shaking his hand. But her tone had cooled several degrees. Lucas, being Lucas, noticed. He didn't call it out. He simply observed, storing it away. Dinner ended with polite smiles, and when Michael announced they were officially dating, I hugged him tight. I wanted to be happy. I tried to be happy. But as Chloe left, she paused at the door, touching Michael's chest affectionately. Then she turned to me. Her smile was soft, sugary, and fake enough to give me a cavity. "We're going to do great things together, Mom," she said, emphasizing that last word like she was claiming a title she hadn't earned. "Big plans, big dreams." Her tone told me exactly what she meant, and I decide where you fit in them. When the door closed, Lucas slipped an arm around my waist. "You okay?" "Of course," I whispered, but I wasn't, not even a little, because I'd seen it. The gleam in Chloe's eyes when she scanned my home, the way she tightened her grip on Michael, the way she reacted to Lucas, to my independence, to the idea I wasn't the helpless widow she expected. And deep down I knew. This girl wasn't here for love. She was here for leverage, and she'd just found her first target, me. When Michael announced the engagement, it happened in the most ordinary, heartbreaking way possible. I'd just finished making chicken soup, his childhood favorite, when he walked into my condo holding a small Tiffany blue box. My heart leapt. I thought, foolishly, he might be giving it to me. Maybe a birthday surprise, maybe something sentimental. But he cleared his throat and said, "Mom, Chloe and I are getting married." There it was. The moment every mother dreams of and dreads. I hugged him, of course. I told him I was happy. And I meant it, or at least I tried to. But when he opened the little box to show me the ring, a diamond glinting under the kitchen light, I saw the tension in his shoulders. The kind you get when you're carrying someone else's expectations on your back. "She picked it out?" I asked gently. "Yeah," he admitted. "She wanted something that looked more Manhattan-worthy." I smiled. "She's got an eye for style." Inside, my stomach tightened, because Manhattan-worthy meant expensive, and expensive meant someone was paying. Chloe arrived an hour later, floating into my home like she owned the place. She kissed my cheek, plopped her designer bag on my sofa, and immediately began showing me wedding boards on her iPhone. Rose gold palettes, flower walls, a ballroom that looked suspiciously like the Plaza Hotel, but more affordable, kind of. "We want everything elegant," she said, scrolling rapidly. "Classy, modern, nothing too traditional." Her eyes flicked toward me on that last word. I pretended not to notice. Then came the worst part. "We've already put some deposits down," she added casually. "Nothing huge, just to secure dates. Michael said it'd be okay to use your card for now, since you always help with family stuff." I blinked. "My card? For now?" Michael froze beside her, eyes darting to me, guilt flickering across his face. "I was going to talk to you," he began, but Chloe talked over him. "It's totally normal for parents to pitch in, and since you're, comfortable financially after the insurance." My breath caught. Insurance. She meant the money for my husband's death. A stranger shouldn't speak of it. A decent person wouldn't. I forced a smile. "How much was the deposit?" "Oh, don't worry," she said way too brightly. "Just a few thousand." A few thousand. Dropped like it meant nothing. My chest tightened, not because of the money itself. I would have given Michael anything, but because Chloe hadn't asked. She'd assumed. Worse, she'd used my son to do it for her. Lucas stopped by later that evening bringing takeout, Thai food, and a quiet understanding that only comes when someone knows your pulse better than you do. He immediately noticed the tension. "What happened?" he asked once Michael and Chloe left. I handed him the receipts Michael had left on my counter. Lucas skimmed them, eyebrows narrowing. "These deposits are non-refundable. And the contract language is off. There's a clause tying you as a secondary guarantor. That's deliberate." Deliberate, the word hit hard. "You didn't sign anything, right?" he asked. "No," I whispered, "but Michael did." Lucas leaned back, exhaling. "Linda, I know you want to protect him, but Chloe's playing a game here. A game, with my son as the pawn, and my bank account as the prize." The next weeks were a blur of wedding planning I wasn't invited into. Chloe hired a planner who emailed her, not me. She made venue decisions, color palettes, and flower choices without once asking what Michael's father would have liked, something that meant the world to him. I became a guest in my own child's milestone. The humiliation was quiet but relentless. When I suggested a softer centerpiece style, she said, "Oh, sweetheart, that's more for, older weddings." When I asked if I could attend a menu tasting, she smiled too widely and said, "Oh, they're all booked, but we'll send you pictures." When I offered my lace handkerchief, the one Michael's father gave me on our wedding day, she said, "Vintage is cute, but not for our aesthetic." Every word was a jab disguised as kindness. And Michael? He didn't see it. Love makes smart men blind. And Chloe was brilliant at playing sweet when he looked her way. One night, after a particularly icy planning session, Lucas held me on the couch as I tried not to cry. "You deserve better than this," he murmured. "I know," I whispered, "but it's Michael's wedding." He brushed my hair, letting silence wrap around us. Then he said something I never expected. "Linda, do you want me to look deeper into the contracts? Something feels off." I hesitated, but deep down, I already knew something was off. And the woman who shoved me at the wedding was only beginning. I wish I could say the first red flag came suddenly, a loud crash, a dramatic reveal, something obvious. But it didn't. It began with a whisper, a glance, a flicker of panic on Chloe's face when she thought no one was watching. One evening, a few months before the wedding, Michael asked me to drop off a folder of work papers he'd forgotten at my condo. He and Chloe had recently moved into a rental together. One, she insisted, must have Chelsea vibes, even though the rent made Michael pale every first of the month. I brought the folder over and knocked. No answer. The door wasn't locked, so I stepped inside. "Michael?" I called out. No reply. But I wasn't alone. In the living room, Chloe was sitting on the couch with her iPhone held almost flush to her face like she was guarding it from the air. Her entire body jolted when she saw me. "Oh, Linda," she gasped. "You scared me." I smiled gently. "Sorry, sweetheart. Just bringing papers for Michael." She slid her phone under a throw pillow so fast she might as well have been hiding contraband. "Oh, great, thanks." Her voice was tight. Too tight. She stood up, blocking the pillow with her body, and plastered on a smile so bright it hurt to look at. "Want some tea?" she asked. I didn't, and she didn't actually want me to say yes. "No thanks," I said. "I'll head out." She practically escorted me to the door. As soon as it shut behind me, I heard her phone buzz violently, 3 times back to back. Then the muffled sound of whispered shouting. I knew that sound. It was the sound of secrets. A few days later, Lucas asked me to meet him at one of his restaurants. Not the main dining room. He took me through a staff hallway I'd never seen, past a prep station and into a small office used for event planning. Sitting at the desk was Maria, one of his senior event coordinators. She looked nervous. "Linda?" Lucas said gently, "There's something you need to see." Maria turned the monitor toward me. It was camera footage, grainy but clear, from the venue's bar area during a walkthrough Chloe had done weeks earlier. There she was, my future daughter-in-law, my son's bride-to-be, pressed against the bar by a man I didn't recognize, tall, sharp jawline, tattoos sneaking out from his collar. Chloe wasn't just flirting. She was kissing him, pulling him closer, whispering into his ear with the kind of hunger she'd never once shown Michael. My stomach dropped. "It's not just that," Maria said, clicking to the next clip. This time, Chloe was pacing with her phone pressed to her ear. "I told you, I need this wedding," she hissed into the phone. "Once the check's clear, I can pay you back. But if you show up and ruin things, we're both screwed." My hand flew to my mouth. She continued, voice rising. "No, he's not rich, but his mom is sitting on a fat insurance payout, and she's too stupid to protect herself, so relax." Stupid. Stupid. The word rang in my ears like a slap. Lucas reached for my hand, but I pulled away, numb. "She was using my son," I whispered. "Using me." He nodded once. "We thought you should know before things get worse." Everything inside me twisted painfully. Rage, betrayal, humiliation. But beneath all that was something sharper. A mother's fear. If I told Michael now, he'd defend Chloe. He loved her. He believed in her. And love blinds good men. I needed proof so irrefutable that there would be no maybe, no "you misunderstood," no wiggle room for manipulation. "I can't tell Michael yet," I said quietly. Lucas frowned. "Linda, not until the wedding," I said. "Not until every mask comes off in front of everyone." He studied me, searching my face. "Are you sure?" I wasn't sure. Not even close, but something inside me, a part I thought grief had killed, spoke up. Strength. Resolve. A spark of the woman I used to be. "I'm done being her victim," I whispered. That night, I sat on my couch, Kindle open to a page I wasn't reading, My mind replayed Chloe's voice. She's too stupid to protect herself. My hands trembled, but not from fear, from purpose. I had been quiet for too long. At the wedding, she wouldn't just shove me into a kitchen. She was about to collide with the one mistake she never saw coming. A mother who finally decided to fight back. Rehearsal dinners are supposed to be warm, sentimental nights. Families meeting, toasts being shared, laughter floating through the air. Ours felt like a corporate takeover. Lucas hosted it at one of his private dining rooms, a gesture of kindness to Michael, who was drowning in wedding expenses he couldn't afford. The room was soft-lit, elegant, with white linens, candles, and a beautiful view of the Manhattan skyline glowing in the distance. But the moment Chloe stepped inside, the air shifted. She scanned everything with a critical eye. The napkin folds, the bread plates, even the floral centerpiece. Instead of saying thank you, she sighed dramatically. Is this the lighting? It looks kind of yellow. I was thinking more rose gold aesthetic, you know? Lucas kept his expression neutral. This room usually photographs beautifully. She hummed, unimpressed. Then she turned to Michael, looping her arm through his. We should upgrade for the real wedding. Something closer to the vibe I want. I bit the inside of my cheek. Michael didn't have money to upgrade. Chloe knew that. But she said it loudly anyway, with that sugary, girlish voice she used whenever she wanted to publicly assert control. During appetizers, she reorganized the seating chart, twice. She snapped at a server for placing the bread basket 1 inch too far left. She asked the staff to bring out sparkling water in the tall glass, not the medium one. As if she were directing a movie. The worst part? Michael looked exhausted but kept smiling, trying to please her. At one point, Chloe leaned across the table and said, "Oh, Linda, sweetie, for the wedding photos, maybe stay on Michael's left side, okay? My hair falls better on the right." I wasn't sure whether to laugh or cry. Gloria, bless her soul, didn't help. She arrived fashionably late, sat beside me, took one look at Chloe's dress, a very tight champagne-colored satin, and whispered loud enough for half the table to hear. "You look gorgeous, Chloe. But honestly, Linda steals the show tonight. That dress on her, stunning." I almost choked on my water. Chloe froze for half a second, lips tightening before stretching into a very sharp smile. "Ah, thank you." Her eyes, however, were daggers. Gloria winked at me. "What? I'm just telling the truth." I could have strangled her or hugged her. During dessert, Lucas gently steered the conversation toward financial planning, just to test the waters. "So, after the wedding," he said casually, "are you two thinking joint accounts? Shared budgeting? It's a big step." Michael nodded. "Yeah, we've talked a little." Chloe interrupted quickly. "We'll see. Lots of moving parts. Depends on Michael's income jumping next quarter, and maybe Linda helps a bit during the transition." My head snapped up. "Helps with what?" I asked. Chloe blinked innocently. "Oh, nothing big. Just small things. Newlyweds always need support." But the way she said support, she meant money. She meant me. Lucas gently placed his hand over mine under the table, just enough to steady me. After guests started leaving, one of the event staff, a young woman named Becca who clearly trusted Lucas, pulled me aside. "Mrs. Hayes, I think you should see this." She handed me a small USB drive. When Chloe toured the venue earlier this week, she had a fight with someone at the bar. "Your friend Lucas said to keep an eye out. I thought you'd want this." I thanked her, heart pounding, and slipped it into my purse. On the drive home, Lucas uploaded the footage on his laptop. It was Chloe. Again. With the same man from the earlier recordings. This time she wasn't kissing him. She was furious. "You cannot show up at the wedding," she snapped at him. "Do you hear me? If you show up, if you ruin this, I swear I'll..." He cut her off with a laugh. "You owe me money, babe. I've been patient." "I said I'll pay you back after the wedding," she hissed. "Do not push me." My stomach twisted. The tone, the desperation, the fear. She wasn't hiding a fling. She was hiding a debt, a big one. When the rehearsal ended, Michael hugged me tightly. "Thank you for being here, Mom." But across his shoulder, I saw Chloe staring at me, eyes narrowed, lips tight, fingers digging into her clutch. She knew something felt off. She didn't know what. Not yet, but she would, because tomorrow was the wedding. And the truth was finally coming with me. The morning of the wedding felt too bright, too cheerful for everything I knew was coming. Sunlight spilled across my bedroom floor in long gold stripes. Outside, Manhattan hummed with its usual Saturday energy, taxis honking lazily, coffee carts steaming at the corners. It should have been a normal day, a beautiful day. A day where a mother gets to watch her only son marry the woman he loves. But my stomach was tight. Today wasn't going to be ordinary. I stood in front of the mirror, smoothing down the navy dress I'd chosen, the same one Lucas had insisted brought out my strength. My silver hair was curled softly, pinned with the pearl clip he bought me last winter. I felt older, yes, but not invisible. Not anymore. Gloria barged in with a Starbucks latte and zero boundaries. "Linda, sweetheart, you look hot. If the groom doesn't cry, I will." I snorted. "Please don't cry. Mascara isn't waterproof." Gloria squinted at me. "Are we ready for the queen?" She meant Chloe. I pretended not to understand. "I'm as ready as I'll ever be." Before leaving, I slipped the small white envelope into my clutch, the one containing the statements, the screenshots, the USB drive, and the lawyer's letter. My insurance policy. My shield. And if it came to it, the match that would burn everything down. The venue was breathtaking. Soft ivory drapes hung from the ceiling, fairy lights twinkling like stars, florals cascaded across long tables, and the Manhattan skyline glowed behind floor-to-ceiling windows. A pianist played something delicate and romantic. Guests whispered, complimented, took pictures. They all looked at Chloe like she was a princess. And I could have loved her, truly, if she had loved my son. Lucas found me near the entrance, slipped his hand into mine. "You good?" "I'm steady," I said. And I was. Until Chloe appeared. She walked toward us in a gown that sparkled with every step, layers of champagne tulle, crystals, and a train so long it needed 2 bridesmaids to carry it. Her makeup was perfect, but her eyes, sharp, assessing, territorial, cut right through the room. "Linda," she sang, "come with me. I need to talk to you." Her tone was sweet enough to rot teeth. Lucas squeezed my hand before she pulled me away. The second we were behind the floral arch, away from phones and guests, her expression dropped like a mask hitting the floor. "Listen carefully," she snapped. "The photographer says your dress is too dark on camera. Stay back during the group shots, okay? Maybe with the relatives who aren't central. Central. Meaning important. Meaning worthy. I'll stand wherever Michael wants me to," I said quietly. Her jaw tightened. "Don't make today harder. I'm already stressed handling everything alone." Alone? She had a planner, 2 coordinators, 6 bridesmaids, and my bank account. I said nothing. Silence clearly offended her. She grabbed my wrist. "And the kitchen told me the appetizers are coming out slow. Go check it, please. We can't have guests waiting." I stared at her. "I'm not kitchen staff, Chloe." She grit her teeth, a smile stretched painfully wide. "Then help them. Just go." "I'm a guest at this wedding," I answered. Her smile vanished, and then, without warning, she shoved me. Again. The door to the kitchen swung open as my body hit it, and I stumbled into a stainless steel counter, wincing as a stack of champagne flutes rattled dangerously. The staff froze. "Ma'am, are you—" "I'm fine," I said quickly. Behind me, through the small window on the swinging door, I watched Chloe float back into the ballroom, laughing, glowing, adored. My hands shook, not from pain, but from something fiercer. This wasn't just disrespect. This wasn't stress. This wasn't a bride having a moment. This was a woman removing obstacles. And today, I was her biggest obstacle. I pressed my hands against the cool metal counter, forcing myself to breathe. "You knew this would happen. You planned for this." Slowly, I reached into my clutch, pulled out my iPhone, and typed the message I'd been waiting to send. "Linda, it's time." A moment later, Lucas, standing by. The hum of the kitchen faded. The noise of guests softened. My heartbeat slowed. Because everything Chloe had built, every lie, every manipulation, every cruel word, was about to come undone. Not by anger, not by violence, not by chaos, but by the truth. And it would happen today, in front of everyone. The ballroom shimmered in gold and champagne tones as I stepped back in from the kitchen, smoothing the wrinkles Chloe left on my dress. Guests were finishing their salads, clinking forks against porcelain, while the pianist transitioned into a soft instrumental version of At Last. For a moment, it looked like a perfect wedding. But perfection is fragile, and lies crumble fastest under bright lights. I walked toward Lucas, who stood near the tech booth with a calmness that made my pulse settle. His hand brushed mine. "You ready?" he murmured. I nodded. "Play it." He gave a subtle signal to the tech operator, one of the venue staff who'd already been briefed. The slideshow on the large LED screen flickered once. Guests clapped, expecting baby pictures and romantic beach photos. Instead, the music cut abruptly. And then, Chloe appeared on the screen. Not in her wedding dress, not smiling, but kissing the tattooed man from the bar. Gasps rippled through the room like a shockwave. On the screen, her arms curled around him, her lips pressed hungrily into his. The audio kicked in a second later. Bad quality but unmistakable. "Just stay quiet until the check's clear," Chloe's voice hissed. "I told you I'll pay you after the wedding. Stop bothering me." Someone shrieked. Someone else dropped a fork. A table of older relatives crossed themselves. Chloe shot to her feet, as pale as her gown. "What the? This isn't real," she screamed. "Turn it off! Turn it off right now!" But the next clip started automatically. This time, she yelled into her phone, pacing the bar area. "His mother is clueless, okay? She practically begged to help pay. Once we're married, I'll get access to the joint account, and everything will be fine. You just need to stay out of my way." A murmur spread through the guests like wildfire. She used the mother? Did she say joint account? Oh my God. Michael rose slowly from his seat, staring at the screen, his jaw clenched so tight a muscle twitched in his cheek. "Chloe," he whispered, voice cracking. "What is this?" "It's edited," she cried. "Someone manipulated it. Linda did. She's trying to ruin our day." Every head turned toward me. I walked forward calmly, heart steady, heels tapping against the marble floor like punctuation marks. "I didn't ruin your day, sweetheart," I said softly. "You did." Chloe's face twisted. "You jealous old." A man's voice cut her off. "That's enough." The room turned as the tattooed man from the footage stepped inside, escorted by a uniformed venue guard. His presence sucked the air out of the room. "You owe me money, Chloe," he said loudly. "And you told me to wait until after the wedding." Chloe stumbled back. No, why are you here? I told you." "And there's more," Lucas said, stepping beside me. He nodded toward the door. He hid where a woman in a navy suit, the family lawyer Lucas had arranged, walked in holding a folder. She addressed the room in a firm professional voice. "For legal reasons, I am here to clarify financial irregularities related to this wedding. Miss Chloe Reynolds attempted to use Ms. Linda Hayes' bank information to secure multiple vendor contracts. She also initiated conversations regarding access to Mr. Michael Hayes' future joint accounts." Gasps. Whispers. A small scream. Michael covered his mouth with his hand, devastated. Chloe shook her head wildly. "This is a setup. Michael, baby, look at me. I did this for us." "For us?" Michael whispered. "You lied to me. You used my mother. You planned to take her money." His voice broke. "Who are you?" Chloe lunged toward him, sobbing. "No, Michael, please." He stepped back. It was the smallest step, but it sealed everything. Her face contorted in rage. "Not sorrow. You," she snapped, stabbing a finger toward me. "You did this. You couldn't stand that he loves me more." I tilted my head. "Sweetheart," I said gently, "you don't destroy someone you love." Silence fell. The lawyer handed the guard a document. "Ms. Reynolds, you are required for questioning regarding financial fraud and outstanding debt related to Mr. Cole Turner." She nodded toward the tattooed man, who filed an incident report 2 days ago. Chloe's mascara streaked down her face as she spun, searching for someone, anyone to save her. But no one moved, not even her bridesmaids. Finally, she screamed, a raw, furious sound, and tried to run for the side door. The guards caught her. The ballroom watched in stunned silence as she was escorted out, still shrieking, still blaming everyone but herself. "And Michael? My boy?" He sank into a chair and cried, quietly, heartbreakingly, into his hands. My heart shattered for him. I went to him, placing my hand on his shoulder. For the first time since he was little, he leaned into me like a child seeking shelter. "Mom," he choked. "I'm so sorry." "It's okay, sweetheart," I whispered, pulling him close. "You're safe now. It's finally over." But it wasn't just over. It was the moment everything began to change. For him. For me. For all of us. The day after the wedding felt strangely quiet. No music, no crystal clinking, no fake compliments layered with venom, just silence. The sun crept through my curtains slowly, as if afraid to intrude. I sat at my small kitchen table with a cup of coffee steaming between my hands. Starbucks beans, a gift from Gloria, while the city hummed below. After everything that had happened, I expected to feel triumphant, but all I felt was tired. A tiredness that lived in my bones, threaded through grief, shock, and something heavier. Relief. Chloe was gone. her lies exposed, her influence over Michael severed, yet the cost of truth was written all over my son's face. Later that morning, Michael knocked softly on my door. He looked different, drained, red-eyed, shoulders hunched like he'd aged 10 years overnight. He stepped inside without speaking, sat at the table, and stared at the steam rising from my mug. "I don't understand how I missed all of it," he said finally. "You were in love," I whispered. "Love makes people see what could be, not what is." He nodded, tears gathering again. "She said you hated her, that you wanted to ruin things for us, and I believed her." "I know," I said, his eyes filled. "I'm so sorry, Mom." I reached across the table, squeezing his hand. "Michael, listen to me. You didn't fail. You trusted someone you cared about. That isn't a flaw." I brushed a tear from his cheek the way I did when he was little. "What matters is what you do now." He swallowed hard and nodded. Before he left, he pulled a small Amazon box from his backpack. "I got you something, just a thank you." Inside was a set of hardcover self-help books, Atomic Habits, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, Women Who Run with the Wolves. I laughed, wiping tears. "Mom," he said softly, "I want you to live your life. Really live it." I smiled. "I'm trying." He hugged me, tight, trembling, sincere. For the first time in years, I felt like I had my son back. In the days that followed, things unfolded quickly. Chloe's financial mess unraveled. Unpaid debts, misused information, the attempted fraud with my bank details. Nothing dramatic like movie-style handcuffs, but very real legal consequences. She faced investigations, fines, mandatory hearings, everything people like her think they're too clever to ever face. Justice didn't roar. It whispered. But it was enough. Michael cooperated fully. He began therapy, started cooking again, even went running with Lucas twice. He told me the quiet felt strange without Chloe's constant demands. Strange, but better. Much better. As for me, I made changes too. I moved in with Lucas, not dramatically, not overnight, but gradually, gently. His condo overlooked the city in warm amber tones with a balcony just big enough for 2 chairs and a little table. Some nights, we'd sit outside with blankets wrapped around our legs, watching Manhattan sparkle beneath us. For the first time since my husband died, I felt something like peace. Not the numb kind. Not the lonely kind. Real peace. One evening, as Lucas poured me a glass of wine, he said, "You know, you handled all of this with more grace than anyone I've ever met." I laughed. "Grace? I feel like I aged 15 years this week." He leaned in, kissed my forehead and murmured, "You're the strongest woman I know." Strength. Something Chloe mistook for weakness. Something I forgot I even had. I placed my hand over his. "Lucas, thank you for standing by me. Always," he said simply, and I believed him. A few days later, Michael came over for dinner. We cooked together, something we hadn't done since he was a teenager. He chopped onions while I stirred the pot, and for the first time in a long time, our kitchen felt like home. As we ate, he looked around the condo, smiling softly. "You seem happy here," he said. "I am," I answered honestly. He nodded, his expression warm. "Good. You deserve that." After he left, Lucas and I stepped onto the balcony. Night wind brushed my hair, cool and gentle. Manhattan glittered beneath us like a sea of diamonds. I threaded my fingers through Lucas's and whispered, "I'm not the woman who gets shoved into kitchens anymore." He smiled. "No, sweetheart. You're not." I rested my head on his shoulder as the city hummed below, alive, imperfect, beautiful. And for the first time in years, I felt alive too. Spring came early that year. One Sunday morning, sunlight drifted across Lucas's balcony, warming the small herb pots we planted together, basil, rosemary, mint. The city sounded softer than usual, like Manhattan itself was taking a slow breath. I sat outside wrapped in a light cardigan, Kindle on my lap, but forgotten. Lucas was inside making breakfast, humming off-key to some old song he loved. The smell of butter and toasted bread floated through the open sliding door. For the first time in over a decade, I felt no weight pulling at my chest. No guilt, no loneliness, no fear of being an aging widow trying to make sense of an empty home. Instead, I felt full of warmth, of peace, of a life I thought I'd lost when my husband died. Michael arrived around noon with a small bouquet of tulips, my favorite, and a shy smile I hadn't seen since he was a teenager. "Mom," he said, stepping out onto the balcony, "I wanted you to meet someone soon. Not today, but soon." He flushed a little. "Someone good, someone real." I pulled him into a hug, feeling his heartbeat steadier than it had been in months. Whenever you're ready, I whispered. I just want you happy. He squeezed me tighter. You too. After he left, Lucas joined me outside with 2 plates of warm French toast dusted with powdered sugar. He sat beside me, thigh brushing mine, and watched the skyline with quiet appreciation. You know, he said softly, you've come a long way. So have we, I replied. He took my hand, lifted it to his lips, and kissed it gently, the kind of kiss that doesn't ask for anything, just honors what's already there. I leaned my head on his shoulder, listening to the city breathe. The taxis, the wind between buildings, the distant laughter of someone walking their dog below. Life wasn't perfect. It never is, but it was mine again. Chosen, peaceful, filled with people who loved me without conditions. And as sunlight warmed my face, I realized something beautiful. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living.